Here we go. Roll video.
I think anybody creating something new must have an adventure.
It's not cinema, it's something else.
My advice to a young filmmaker is to make a movie every week.
The whole bag of movies can be learned in about a day and a half.
But suspense is essentially an emotional process.
You gotta make films. You gotta make it and get it seen.
Cinema for me is a world of when I dream.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Behind the Slate. I am your host, Aaron Strand. What you're about to hear is the audio from our May 22nd screening of Bruce Robinson's wonderful British cult classic, Withnail and I. This one kind of came about in a cool way. I had suggested Withnail and I months ago, and when we inquired to the distributor, they just ghosted us. They didn't respond, which is kind of strange behavior for this particular distributor. And at the theater, we began to speculate maybe this is because there's a new restoration coming, and they don't want the old restoration circulating because they think they'll sell more rentals from the new one. Well, we were looking into programming a different film for May, and once again, we weren't hearing from that distributor, when all of a sudden an email came through that said, hey, a new 4K restoration of Withnail and I is available for rental now. And so we immediately pivoted to that, which was very exciting. As we built up toward the show, I got a DM on Instagram from a gentleman by the name of Murray Close, saying, I was the original stills photographer on this film. Would you like me to come do a Q&A? And I looked him up only to realize that this is the only photographer to my knowledge who was personally trained by Stanley Kubrick. I think from basically the age of 18 to 22, he was trained by Stanley. He was the stills photographer on The Shining, and his career took off from there. I mean, this guy has done stills photography for some of the greatest films ever made. I mean, obviously The Shining, we're talking Empire of the Sun, Jurassic Park, Tim Burton's Batman, and he's working to this day. He's done all the Hunger Games. He works with Alex Garland quite a bit. So it was an incredible honor to welcome Murray into the theater. He came and did a talk back after the screening, which you'll hear now. He was a absolutely lovely human, and his stories and his insight were incredible, and I think the crowd got a lot out of it. Without further ado, this is my intro to Bruce Robinson's 1987 classic, Withnail and I.
Hello. Welcome to Behind the Slate Presents. Yes. Sorry about the bags, but I forgot to bring my Wellingtons. If you haven't seen the movie, that joke will make sense in about an hour. My name is Aaron Strand. I am the host of the Behind the Slate podcast. It is a film history podcast dedicated to cinema's past, present, and future. You can scan this QR code, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. You can check out the audio from tonight's show. You can also listen to all of our previous shows here at the Plaza Theatre. And I am so happy to be back in this beautiful cinema with this beautiful crowd. Oh my God, you guys look amazing. You guys look amazing walking in here. Who here has had a few ales? Any Camberwell carrots consumed before this? Okay, enough of the inside jokes. All these things will make, if you haven't seen the movie, it will make sense very soon. So if you've never been to a show, Behind the Slate show before, the way this works is I get up here, I give just a very brief little 5 to 6 minute spiel about some of the historical context around what makes these films great, with the goal of trying to make the film come more alive for you. We're then going to watch the movie, and then tonight, I'm sure many of you met him outside. We have a very special guest. Mr. Murray Close, the original stills photographer for this movie, is going to be here on stage doing a Q&A. Yes, give it up. Give it up. Guys, it's not every day that you get to hang out with somebody that's worked with Stanley Kubrick and Steven Spielberg. So you're going to want to stick around for that conversation. Now, tonight, I haven't even talked about the movie. Tonight, we're watching Bruce Robinson's 1987 classic, Withnail and I, one of my absolute favorite movies from my amazing script. Now, on the one hand, this film is incredibly accessible. Who here has been a struggling artist in a big city? Yes, nice. You're gonna get this movie. Who here has had a crazy roommate? Okay, even more. Yes, you're gonna get this movie. Who has tried to drink themselves to sanity after a 4-day meth binge? Yeah, okay, in the back. Yeah, in the back, you're my homie. We'll talk afterward. But there are deeper themes at play here. And I'll be honest, the first time I watched this movie about 10 years ago, they went completely over my head. This film takes place at a very specific moment in time. The last week of September 1969. It's the final months of the swinging 60s in London. And this film is really about the end of the party. It's about what happens when the fun is over. Okay, now, the 60s in the UK, it was a time of great optimism. This is because an economic boom put money in people's wallets and cheap consumer goods on the shelves. For the first time in history, young people had money to spend and no wars to fight. So this entire creative economy emerged to separate young people from their money. Enter rock music, nightclubs, fashion, and drugs. Pop culture has given us rose-colored glasses about the 60s. You know, we kind of imagine it as an Austin Powers fever dream where every 20-year-old was dancing, with Mick Jagger and Twiggy. And of course, that was not the case. The people living that lifestyle were a very, very small group. And the vast majority of young people in the UK were on the outside looking in, trying to achieve that kind of lifestyle. And on the whole, London was still the same drab, conservative, polluted, imperial capital in structural decline that it was before. Now, Bruce Robinson, the writer and director of this film, he experienced both sides of the 60s. In 1967, he graduated from drama school and had an amazing break of good luck. He was cast as Benvolio in Franco Zeffirelli's iconic film of Romeo and Juliet. Oh my gosh, what an incredible break for a young actor. He gets to go work with this big-time director. He goes down to Italy. It's a dream come true. Except his dream quickly turned into a nightmare. As soon as he showed up, he was the target of repeated sexual assaults at the hand of the 45-year-old Zeffirelli. Zeffirelli would break into his bathroom while he was showering. He would break into his apartment in the middle of the night, get into his bed, pressure him for sex. All of this left a young Robinson very confused, and Zeffirelli would become the inspiration for the lecherous Uncle Monty in this film. He gets back to England as a young and budding star. He gets to work with a few other big directors, Ken Russell, Francois Truffaut, but in a few years, his looks begin to fade, his youth begins to fade, and so do the job opportunities. By the mid-70s, he finds himself broke, living in a Camden Town flat with his old drama school classmate, Vivian Mackerel, drowning their sorrows and bemoaning their lost careers. Guys, this is the seed of Withnail and I. Viv Mackerel was the inspiration for the character of Withnail. Robinson poured all of this emotion and real experiences into a script, and it took him 15 years till he finally was able to make Withnail and I. Now, there's one last thing about this film that I want to share with you, because it's an element that is sometimes lost on American audiences. There is an element of class to this story. The character of Marwood, played by Paul McGann, who is based on Bruce Robinson, he is a decidedly middle-class character. Okay, he's naive, he's a little vulnerable, but he is upwardly mobile. Withnail, on the other hand, he is a decidedly upper-class character, okay? He comes from an aristocratic background. He went to Harrow, which is, one of the big public boarding schools for boys, what they call public schools, we call private schools. It's very confusing. It's a very nice school, Harrow. And this is very important to understand, because not only does it make Withnail's pontificating that much funnier, but it also explains why Marwood feels like he needs Withnail. He looks up to him. He learns from him. He, just like all of us, don't we all wish that we had a rich friend that made us cooler and made our lives easier? When I think about watching this movie today, in 2025, I can't help but feel the extraordinary parallels. All of us in this room have also lived through an incredibly exciting decade that has curdled into whatever nightmarish world we are living in today. The late 2000s to 2010s was one of the most exciting periods of time on Earth. I mean, the spread of technology, the internet, social media, connecting the world, progressive ideas filtering into the mainstream. Once upon a time, we were promised a generation of artists, filmmakers, and musicians who could find a sustainable life, and all they needed was a MacBook. Instead, the only people who can make money are, red-pilled crypto bros quoting Joe Rogan. Once upon a time, we danced to a song whose opening line was "Wake up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy." Remember Occupy Wall Street? January 6th was more successful. It's true. Remember when Kanye was fun? Living in 2025 is like if Jimi Hendrix didn't die from an overdose, he just grew up to become a Nazi. Oh, I wonder why he called it Axis Bold as Love. I'm not saying the world would be better if Kanye West had died of an overdose. But I'd be listening to Jesus a lot more if he did. As we watch this movie, I invite you to reflect on your own experience of disillusionment within our modern times and relate that to the pain, the loss, and the confusion that the characters on screen are experiencing. In the meantime, sit back, relax, and enjoy Bruce Robinson's 1987 masterpiece, Withnail and I.
At this point, we watch the film, and now I'm going to fast forward in the evening to just after the movie has ended, and we begin our Q&A with Mr. Murray Close.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Murray Close, the original stills photographer on Withnail and I.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Please have a seat.
Oh, thank you.
First of all, thank you so much for coming out. Just so you guys know, how did you find out about this event? Because he just DM'd me on Instagram and say, hey, by the way, I'm the original stills photographer on this movie.
It was my friend Monica, who's at the back, who follows you, and she said, do you know this thing is happening? And then I went, I have no idea. So then I DM'd you and said, you realize I'm here, don't you?
I do now. Thank God I did. So just to start things off, what was your first impression of walking onto the set of Withnail and I? Before we sort of start the origin story, what was your first impression of this set experience?
Well, the set was Uncle Monty's cottage, which was tiny, and it still exists. You can go there. It was tiny, and the whole film was, I was basically asked to do it as a favor. Warner Brothers distributed handmade films, and I was hired to do Little Shop of Horrors. And so Warner's knew I had a few weeks, and they just said to me, can you do a favor and just do this film? And I was like, okay, fine, whatever. And I didn't do every day, actually, because we didn't have very much money. So I did sort of 40, I did about half the film as such. And I read the script, and it was, just fucking hysterical. The script is amazing, but the film was made by 4 people and a dog. I mean, there were no facilities. There was no floating walls in that cottage. We were cramming people in there. So there was a few friends of mine from other films, the makeup artist, Peter Frampton, and the hairdresser, Sue Love, the first assistant director, Peter Cohn, I knew. So there's some people I knew, but I mean, no one had any idea what we were doing. Even Bruce didn't really know what we were doing. He wrote the script, but no one had any concept of that I would be sitting here in Atlanta talking about this in 2025. It was a small side project that George commissioned through Handmade Films.
George Harrison. George Harrison. Don't know if you've heard of him.
And there was really very low expectations. I mean, Richard E. Grant and Paul McGann were unknown. Richard Griffiths, Uncle Monty, was obviously pretty famous through, he was very big with the RSC and theatrical productions, but there was no cast really to speak of.
There's a story that on the first day of shooting, or like one of the first days of shooting, Bruce Robinson basically got up in front of the entire crew and said, I have no idea what I'm doing. I know what I want to do, but I have no idea how to do it. I need your help. And that this really sort of brought the crew together. Do you remember like that sort of experience?
I wasn't actually there for that particular speech, but I do remember, the night before shooting, he just got totally hammered because he had no technical filmmaking understanding. So he relied very heavily on Peter Hannon, who was the director of photography, and Peter Cohn, who was the first AD. And he really had no idea. And he had all these weird people like me around him, and everyone just sort of, we just sort of started. I think we started in the river scene where he's shooting fish. I think that's the first stuff we did. Okay, it was complete chaos. It was complete chaos.
Was it a positive set? Like, were people happy in the chaos?
Oh yeah, no, it was terrific set. It's a lot of fun, a lot of boozing. There was,
Great.
But that's what you did in the 80s anyway.
Yeah.
It was very happy. No, we had a great time. It was difficult, but everyone had that camaraderie, which you quite often get in a small production. There's a small band of players together, and you just make do. I mean, you didn't moan about the rain or the facilities, or there were no trailers or anything. You just showed up and got on with it.
So I'm curious about your work, and we have the stills playing behind us here.
Lovely Michael.
And these stills are incredible, but I find it so interesting that you really captured a sort of different vibe than Peter Hannon's primary cinematography. It's almost like I equate looking at your stills as like you're looking into the same house but through a different window.
Well, I have a problem watching the film because I think the film should be in black and white.
Oh, hot take.
Because no, in no disrespect to Peter, he's an old mate, but I'm just so used to seeing the film.
Yeah.
Through my images in black and white. When I see it in color, I go, oh yeah, that's right. It was in color.
What was your decision behind shooting in black and white?
Well, I shot color as well.
Okay.
But I think the images look better in black and white. And I'll tell you why. Because of the low budget, Peter didn't really have all the tools he needed. And the film stock in those days was slow. So there's some shadow areas that you could have used a little bit more light and stuff like that, which in black and white worked better, in my personal opinion.
Did you bring this up at all on set?
No. That was definitely not my position. Now I would. But not then.
In the actor's commentary on the new Blu-ray that just came out.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Well, I think it's actually an older commentary. Paul McGann's doing one of the commentary tracks, and he makes a joke that Peter Hannon took a really long time to set up, and you'd get to the end of it, and it just looked like he turned all the lights off.
I haven't heard that, no.
So I wanted to ask about, so this, as you mentioned, this was many of the actors' first film role. And they talk openly that they got to set and felt very out of their element. They were very nervous about their performances and then turned in some of the most memorable comedic performances that we have. So what do you remember about Richard and Paul's energy on set? Do you remember sort of that nerves? Do you what do you remember about their performances?
They didn't show nerves, outward nerves in that sense. Paul was cast before Richard, because Paul is basically playing Bruce.
Right.
He's the moral compass of the story, and there was a number of Bill Nye, Daniel Day-Lewis, Cam Branagh. They were all up for playing Richard's part, for playing Withnail, and then Richard got it kind of at the last minute. It was all those actors were at the same point in their careers. They would have jumped at the chance, but no, there was no. No, there were no nerves as such. I think everyone had a pretty good. They were not famous, but established actors. They knew what they were doing.
Now I did sort of mention that Bruce said he didn't know what he was doing on a technical side, but from what I understand, he was very particular when it came to the words that he wrote.
Yes. Yeah, there was no improvisation.
Yeah.
No, there was the script is amazing. It's a beautiful script. He's such a talented writer, Bruce.
What do you remember about the directions that he would give on set?
Not technical. They were really actor. I think that's one of the reasons that actors love this movie is that it's not technical. It's not about the camera. It's not about making anything flashy or ostentatious. It's really just about the actors. So, but they would, I think everyone understood the script well enough before we had very few weeks to make this film. There was no room fucking around. So there wasn't like, well, let's try another one, let's try this. You had to push. So I don't know exactly how long they had to rehearse it off set, but everyone was prepared.
Yeah. And I'm going to open it up to the audience in just a second. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. I'll come to you.
Yeah, he's boring.
But real quick, so for those who don't know, Murray is an absolutely legendary stills photographer. I mean, this is the original stills photographer on The Shining. He was the stills photographer for Jurassic Park, Tim Burton's Batman. What are the moments during a production that really get you excited as a photographer? Is it sort of after a take, before a take? When are the moments that you're sort of, where you are really, you get that sort of insight into the characters or to the production itself?
Well, it's watching the takes, then it becomes clear what the actor's going to bring to that scene. I mean, there's certain beats you've got if we're doing a poster or we're doing some marketing things, and that's more contrived, and that's a slightly different situation. But when you're watching a scene appear in front of you, I mean, that's amazing. It's extraordinary. And sometimes it's the rehearsal of the scene. Sometimes, not so much these days, but certainly. There was Devil's Advocate. There was the end scene when Al Pacino is becoming the devil, and Keanu and I've forgotten the female actor's name. Charlize Theron.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, Charlize, and we did a whole rehearsal, about 2 hours of that end scene. And it was just amazing. It's like watching actors' studio. You just sat cross-legged and just watched. I mean, it was those kind of moments are incredible.
Yeah,
just amazing. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Want to open it up? Yes, right here down in front. I'm going to come running around with the microphone.
My goodness.
You can say right there. Yes.
I'm super shy, so I got to get it out now.
Okay.
Never. So I just want to say that I thought that the cinematography was incredible. The dialogue was amazing. The music was perfect, but now I really want to see it in black and white.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, maybe they could add a black and white edition. They did the latest Godzilla movie. They did a black and white version.
I'll suggest it to Bruce when I see it next.
Anybody else? Yes.
How cold was it?
How cold? It wasn't cold, it was wet. We actually filmed the stuff in the Lake District, Uncle Monty's. That was in the summer, actually, so that was pretty nice. It was wet, and the end scene at Regent's Park, when he's doing the soliloquy, that was fake rain. But that was, so we actually filmed, it was pretty much all summer, actually. It wasn't really cold at all.
That was going to be my next question, is if you had a small budget, if there was any special effects.
Just as the only thing I can remember would be the rain at the end scene, actually. And I guess the motorway sequence, which Bruce had to pay for himself. Dennis O'Brien, otherwise known as Lion O'Brien, who owned Handmade, he wouldn't pay for it, the whole scene on the motorway. So Bruce paid for it himself. So there was obviously some driving stuff there, and there was some rain on the windscreen. But in fact, Richard Griffiths refused to have anything to do with the movie after that point because Handmade treated Bruce so badly. So he cut off, because I worked with Richard again on the Harry Potter film, so we stayed in Richard Griffiths. So we stayed in touch, and he would never want to talk about Withnail.
Anybody else? Yes.
So a lot of the scenes that you captured are actually taking place in the film. So were you shooting behind the camera, like with a long lens? I imagine you'd be trying to stay out of the way while they were actually rolling, or were you shooting rehearsals, or How are you capturing these moments that actually
No,
happen in
I
the film?
try. Yes, you have to keep out of the frame. Obviously, I'm not there to get in the way. They're trying to make a film. I'm trying to get what I need at the same time. So there's obviously negotiation, but I try and get as close as possible, but not necessarily at the same angle as a cinematographer, because the still image can and is different from a moving image in terms of what works for composition. So sometimes you don't have too many choices because the frame is set up and lit for the cinematographer, so you're constantly trying to avoid stands, flags. But in Uncle Monty's, as small as the space was, there was really no space to put any stuff. It had to be lit from the windows. So, so I had much better free range to actually shoot whatever I wanted to. If that makes any sense.
They just the still with Ringo Starr just passed by about a minute ago. What do you remember of the day Ringo showed up on set?
Ringo showed up one day because he had a tax problem, and George, in order for him to be able to spend more time in the UK, made him, what's his credit again, special consultant or something?
Yeah, it's some nonsense credit.
So he showed up for one day just so we could take some pictures of him on set, just to show he was a special consultant. So in those days in the 80s, people were pretty limited if you're a tax exile onto how many days you could spend in the UK before you were taxed a lot. So there was some sort of weird deal going on. I don't know. He's a great guy. He's a nice man. Everyone was very excited to see him.
Anybody else? Yes, right here.
At the beginning of the film, there's that demolition that's going on.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything about like how that came about? Like, was that something you guys had set up, or did it just so happen that they were doing
No,
it?
I think what happened was that because we had no money, we couldn't set it up. Well, we knew it was going to happen, so we said, "Can you guys do this when we can come along on a Tuesday or something?" But that building was coming down anyway, and then the JAG pulls out and stuff like that. So that's what happened there. It was a little bit of, can you help us out here? But it was going to happen. Yeah, the wrecking ball coming down.
Very cool.
I think, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there is a wrecking ball demolition scene in Sid and Nancy as well, which is like, for some reason I always like somewhat loosely associate Sid and Nancy with this film in terms of sort of like the leads. And I believe when they're on the Lower East Side, there's a demolition happening in the background.
It's been a while since I've seen it, so...
but I always, for some reason, pops into my
I'm not
head.
sure there'd be a motif. I don't think it was an homage.
No. Certainly. That's an Aaron thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. That's purely my head.
Keep them coming, Aaron.
Yeah. Yes, over here.
Hi. Do you have a particular shot, rather than this, whether it's in this film or just in your career, that you're just very fond of or really proud of?
Well, there's a number of them. I mean, some of them actually are from this film. I think one of my favorite images from this is a picture called Adieu. Well, all the pictures have got names. It's called Adieu, which is from the last scene where you just see the top of Marwood, Paul's hat, walking away, and Richard's look at him with the umbrella and the rain coming down. It's such a sad look at Richard's face. And the other one, of course, is the image that we call Natural Theatre, which is Richard with his arms outstretched at the top of when they're walking back from A Night at the Crow. But there's so many, Batman with a camera I like. There's some. Which one? Adieu, like goodbye in French. Adieu.
Yeah, how do you spell it?
Adieu.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adieu.
Adieu.
Great question. Great question. Anybody else? Do we have any other questions? Well, if we're going to start kind of winding down, I would love for you to share the story of really how these pictures got got saved, and sort of also like how, because this film sort of disappeared into obscurity for a while. So
this film totally disappeared. It was one of those odd situations for me because I did it as a favor, and they couldn't really afford to pay me what I would normally get. We just did a handshake deal. Handmaid's offices were just in Knightsbridge, and we had lunch at San Lorenzo or somewhere, and a few too many glasses of wine, and we shook hands, and I was going to do the job. So I got to own the rights. Obviously the film came out, they used all the color pictures, it was all great. Film disappeared, no one went to see it. That was the end of it. You know, there was Bruce got another couple of directing jobs, everyone went their separate ways and no one owned it. And then years later, a black and white laboratory in London that I used in the 80s was closing down, and they called me up and said, we've got all these negatives, and I completely forgot about them from Withnail, so I got them all back and went through them all. And all the pictures you see, these were I'm not saying they'd be destroyed, someone would have got them, but they gave them back to me. And so we started to head exhibitions in London and revamped the whole situation, got everyone interested again, and which has been so cool. We've had a number of shows in London. We've got a show coming up at Hay on Wye, which is right near where Bruce lives, in December. So it just sort of has a life of its own. I'm so happy to still be part of it, and Bruce and Paul and Richard and myself, we're all still mates. So I'm going to send them pictures of the outside of here with my name up on the. Thank you so much for that. That's very special. So
Yeah.
it's a once in a lifetime situation for me. It was something I really was part of, and I'm still part of, and I'm younger than a lot of people, so I may be the last person around.
Wow. What I'm curious, and maybe this is the last question for the evening. What was the moment during the life of this film? Because like you said, it came out, nobody saw it, it didn't create it, it had this cult following for years. What was the moment where you were like, wow, this is really special?
There wasn't one.
Really?
Nope. There wasn't one. I mean, everyone, we had a screening at BAFTA, and we saw it. It was good. We enjoyed it and funny, but no one really knew who it was going to play to. I mean, who was going to
This is when the film was first finished? Like
yes, in 87, 86 or whatever. Yeah. And no one knew, everyone knew it was good, and we all laughed, but it's difficult to, well, as you know, you've seen the film, some of you haven't seen it before, some have seen it for the first time. It's a difficult film to recommend to people. How do you describe it? What is it? So I saw this great film, this is amazing, you're going to go and see it. And then how do you get people to go? It's not a love story, there's no women in it, they're not gay, I mean, it's about friendship, it's about actors, it's about drugs, it's alcohol. I mean, sure, I'll go and see that. I mean, so it's difficult. So in all honesty, that's why the film disappeared, because no one, and then it was rediscovered when Criterion got hold of it. I think it was the early 2000s.
Yeah, I think that one of their first DVDs came out in 2007.
Was it as late as that?
I think so.
No, it was before that.
Really?
I was still living in Los Angeles, so that was late 90s. Yeah,
oh, okay.
Late 90s. And it's, people back in the early 90s, when you could still get it on VHS, you were lending friends this VHS cassette, and it was wearing thin because, people were playing it so much. But, no one was screening it. So this is so rare to see it in the theater. This is marvelous.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's all power to the Plaza and to you for organizing it. It's amazing.
Yes,
really
of course.
Great.
Well, it's my honor. It's my pleasure. I've loved this movie for a decade now. And to share it with you, to have you come out and share your pictures and your stories with us. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out. Please
spread the word.
Yes. Tell your friends about the weird movie you saw.
Yeah.
And Mr. Murray Close, the incredible
thank you.
photographer who donated his time.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.